It's Friday, June 27th, 2025, a Friday 5-pack of news stories, including the half-court press on the One Big Beautiful Bill and Ask or Tell Me Anything next on the AM Update. Again, every single week, I say the same thing on the Friday show. What a week! It really is a historic, at least these last couple of weeks, to be serious, have been very, very historic. We think as the ceasefire over in the Middle East between Israel and Iran again continues to seemingly hold. That was a crazy, crazy week. I forgot to say this as well. Last week's poll of the week, what do you think the outcome, or what do you think the end goal of this war will end up being? I gave you one of those options was short with U.S. engagement. Whoever voted for that, you guys win. But man, alive, when you just take into account everything that happened over the last 14 days, it is absolutely nuts to think about. It does seem like this year overall, and I've made comments kind of hinting at this, it just seems like something is happening in history right now. It just does to me, anyway. I mean, it seems like everybody is alive, like this country is alive again. Now, we don't know if it's maybe a last gasp alive or really we're starting to awake from a long national slumber, but it does seem like this country is alive. Before we get to our Friday 5-pack of news stories, I just want to thank you. This week we passed another milestone on the AM Update. 1 million downloads over the life of the podcast. And for a daily show like this, that's not huge numbers, especially over 2.5 years, but it's still something that not a whole lot of people, when you think of all of the podcasts that are out there, even the ones where people are getting paid serious bucks for, not many people can say they've had a podcast downloaded 1 million times. And these are the IAB numbers. For those of you who are familiar with podcasting, these are actually certified downloads, filtered out for quality. 1 million downloads. And I just have you to thank for it. Not the biggest audience, but the best. And I appreciate you. Let's go to our Friday 5-pack of news stories. President Trump is putting on the half-court press, I think, for the One Big Beautiful Bill. I say that because I don't know how much pressure behind the scenes the White House is actually exerting on Senate leadership to pass One Big Beautiful Bill, which has a deadline of next week. I think it's an arbitrary deadline of July 4th. And I keep forgetting July 4th is next week. Independence Day is next week. Well, he had a gathering at the White House yesterday, and he featured oodles of families and business owners and workers and featured their stories and how this bill will help each and every one of them. Also, he put the screws and turned the screws on when it comes to how this bill will help secure the southern border and equip immigration and customs enforcement. He actually invited Tom Homan, border czar, up to the podium to make a few comments. And I feature border czar Tom Homan quite a bit. And I do that because it seems like, to the best of his ability, and I know he's border czar is kind of an honorary title, but he sure seems to do the best he can to make sure his rhetoric is backed up with action. He gave a few impassioned remarks during this event at the White House yesterday.
Look, I think this issue of the Big Beautiful Bill should be nonpartisan. I don't know what the hell's the matter with everybody up in Congress? People are dying every day. ICE is arresting 3 times as many criminals that the Biden administration did. We're taking public safety threats and national security threats off the street every single day. But we got over 600,000 illegal aliens with criminal histories walking the streets of this country. We got less than 5,000 deportation officers. This should be a no-brainer. The more resources we get, if we get this bill passed, we got more agents on the road. We buy more beds, we get more transportation flights. More agents means more bad guys arrested, taken off the streets of this country every single day. Every day we arrest a public safety threat or national security threat. This makes this country much safer. Who the hell would be against that? And I get irritated, I get pissed off because I'm sick of meeting angel moms and dads. You want to talk about family separation? They buried their children. So I've done this since 1984. I've worked for 6 different presidents. No one has had the success of the Trump administration. We got the most secure border in the history of this nation today.
Border czar Tom Homan with some impassioned remarks at the event at the White House yesterday, turning the screws to pass the One Big Beautiful Bill. President Trump also, at that ceremony, made an announcement for international trade.
Everybody wants to make a deal and have a part of it, right? I know you and Howard and Scott are working overtime. making deals with other countries. Remember a few months ago, the press was saying, do you really have anybody of any interest? Well, we just signed with China yesterday, right? Just signed with China. We have everybody. We're not going to make deals with everybody. Some we're just going to send them a letter, say, thank you very much. You're going to pay 25, 35, 45%.
So it sounds like officially official, as much as you can be with the Communist Party. The trade deal with China is finished. Story number 2, Nestle is the latest giant food company to say it's going to fully eliminate synthetic food colors from its U.S. food and beverage portfolio by mid-2026. The DiGiorno pizza maker said the transition will be completed within the next 12 months, adding that more than 90% of its current categories already do not contain synthetic colors. So, another giant food company. There's General Mills. There's another big one last week as well. Now, Nestle, just a gigantic company, saying, hey, we can have this done in the next year. Yep. No problem. Again, why weren't we doing this already? It's not news that some of these dyes are poison. It's not news at all. Another Maha development. Governor Kevin Stitt of Oklahoma said he's going to partner up with RFK Jr., HHS Secretary, to ban artificial food dyes from schools and prisons in Oklahoma and remove junk food from being able to be purchased with SNAP benefits.
Most Americans, definitely all Oklahoma, really wants this Make America Healthy Again movement, and so we want Oklahomans to be healthy. If you look at childhood obesity, it's 1 out of every 3 kids in the U.S. Oklahoma is no different. So what can we do to improve that health? And so I've got a request to, on the SNAP waiver request right now on the USDA's desk, to remove soda, confectionery foods, candy from being able to be used for SNAP benefits. So that's one thing. And then I'm signing an executive order today to make sure that the food we feed kids in schools and also prisons, any state-sponsored food, we eliminate any kind of artificial dyes. So we're excited about that. And then my Department of Health, I'm removing the recommendation for fluoride in the water across all the municipalities.
Good job, Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt. Just simple things to hopefully make America healthy again, make Oklahoma healthy again. Story number 3, Zohran Mamdani. He is the Democrats' nominee for mayor of New York City. He joins Jen Psaki, former White House press secretary for the Biden administration. He joined her to talk about his win in that primary. And he was asked a very specific question.
You are running on issues that are very relevant to people in New York City. The cost of housing, free busing. Some have projected, that this is the type of platform that would work in other parts of the country. I mean, you're a proud democratic socialist. Do you think that is a platform that would work for other candidates running in other parts of the country?
Absolutely. I think ultimately this is a campaign about inequality. And you don't have to live in the most expensive city in the country to have experienced that inequality, because it's a national issue. And what Americans coast to coast are looking for are people who will fight for them, not just believe in the things that resonate with their lives, but actually fight and deliver on those very things.
I would encourage everyone to not scoff at Mr. Zohran Mamdani. I think it's a pretty good chance that he wins that mayoral race in New York City. And this guy could be a national figure very, very soon. Do not scoff at him. He is very good at this. Having paid a little bit more attention to the campaign that he ran, very good campaign, very great optics, great messaging. Of course, the inside, if you look under the hood, it's just a rotting, decaying carcass. That's what Marxist socialism, communism is. And he checks all of those boxes. But it's the package that matters to most people. And he is very likable and relatable and very well spoken as well. So maybe final word on that story for now. Do not scoff at Zohran Mamdani. Got to take him seriously, I think anyway. From Zohran to Jamaal, here's Jamaal Bowman, former, I think, U.S. representative from the state of New York, who has a very interesting explanation for why the black population suffers from higher rates of different diseases.
Catholic
And the
pro-life
problem
ministries
is
bombed.
we are not dealing
Catholic
with
pro-life ministries
America's
bombed. You're
original
right.
sin and its disease of hate and racism towards black and brown people and sexism towards women and anti-LGBTQ sentiment. We are not dealing with that. Your colleagues in the Republican Party do not hold each other accountable when it comes to the racism that comes from the party on a consistent basis.
Congressman, I mean, where are you on
You
the where are
can't
the
be calm
assassination
about
attempts?
this. I'm a black man in America. The reason why heart disease.
I'm white, I can't comment on
Listen
that.
to what I'm saying.
Is that what
The
you're
reason
saying?
why heart disease and cancer
pretty
and
racist,
obesity
because I can't
and
comment on
diabetes are bigger in the black community is because of the stress we carry from having to deal with being called the N-word directly or indirectly every day.
Directly or indirectly every day, black people are so stressed out about being called the N-word, and that's why they have higher rates of disease. How are you indirectly called the N-word? And how does that stress you out? I hate this racialist stuff. I mean, what are you supposed to do when you encounter somebody like Jamaal, who just talks over you, just emotive? Anytime you call him out, that automatically is proof that you're a racist and you hate his guts. It's just heads I win, tails you lose. And by the way, you realize what he's communicating there. He thinks that his own community that happens to share the same level of melanin in his skin, he says that they are so fragile that they walk around with this stress all the time, thinking that they're being indirectly called the N-word. That's what he's communicating. He thinks they're fragile. Running overtime on this segment, so when we come back, final story in the Friday 5-pack. The security guard at Cross Point Community Church in Michigan, who stopped the would-be mass church shooter. He talked to local media for the first time. We'll hear from him next. Jay Trombley is the name of the security guard at Cross Point Community Church in Wayne, Michigan, who, after the would-be mass shooter was run over by a deacon at that church, he was the one who stopped the threat cold. He talked to WXYZ TV in Detroit. Listen to this.
I'm doing all right.
Yeah.
I'm doing okay. I'm sure it's going to take some time to hit me and settle in. But I'm doing okay. Yeah. I got some sleep last night, and I'm doing all right. Still processing.
Sure. Walk me through, man, your vantage point when this all went down and the process to, closing that OODA loop and you realize, oh, this is what is in fact happening.
Standing in the hallway between our sanctuary and cry room, heard a noise, thought it was mechanical at first, turned to see people running. Asked them through a door what had happened. I thought it was in the cry room, and a young woman said AR-15. And I said, where? She pointed, and I headed in that direction out into the lobby. Got into the lobby, realized there was a commotion outside the front lobby doors. Got close, started evaluating the situation, trying to make sense of a person on the ground, a pickup truck there, looked like it had some damage, had heard several bursts of, sounded like automatic rifle fire. Stepped out the door, evaluated the situation somewhat, realized who the pickup belonged to, that it was somebody from our church, and then realized that the threat was still a threat. Retreated. He fired some more into our building. By the grace of God, he missed me. He hit another person in the calf. And after that, I engaged him. and took care of the threat to the church.
That is Cross Point Community Church guard Jay Trombley recounting beat by beat what went down last Sunday as a would-be mass shooter was stopped by not only a deacon but the church security team. Harrowing moments there, but it's a good reminder. If you are in church leadership or you are attending a church and you don't have security set up for that church, somebody's not doing a good job of guarding the flock. I mean that seriously. And this is a good reminder for all of us as well. If you carry, and I'm talking about myself here, I need to get to the range more often. You need to stay proficient and comfortable with your piece. All right, let's go to Ask or Tell Me Anything. And I'm going to start with this one. And I think this is a fantastic question. It's from Don't Drone Me, Bro. He says, I've always just accepted the talking point that Iran can't have a nuke. And that's always been the justification for the sanctions or the bunker busters or tomahawks or whatever military action we feel we need to take. Now, since COVID, I'm far more likely to question all these narratives that we simply accepted as gospel truth for the past however many decades. This is something that you've questioned, or is this something you've questioned in light of these recent events? Why can't Iran have a nuke, but North Korea, China, and other not friendly countries can? Do you really think that they couldn't get their hands on a black market nuke if they wanted to? Appreciate your perspective on these questions. Man, I think this is a fantastic question. And let's take this kind of beat by beat. Now, since COVID, I am far more likely to question all these narratives that we've simply accepted as gospel truth for the past however many decades. Well, don't drone me, bro. Me too, including on this issue. Maybe if you've listened, to my commentary on Iran over the past few weeks, totally fine with Israel taking their action. But I kind of hedged when it came to American action because I had some of these same doubts. About Iran. You ask, is this something that you've questioned in light of these recent events? Yes, I did. But here's where I came down on it when it comes to Iran. And I said this the other day as well. At some point, you just have to take people at their word. You have to take people at their word, especially if they've been saying the same thing over and over and over again for years. When it comes to the mullahs in Iran, they were just doing it again this week in their parliament, their fake parliament. Death to America, death to Israel. One of the first things that they did on the international stage once they did their Islamic revolution back in the late 70s, one of the first things that they did was take Americans hostage. That was one of the first things that they did. The Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah. Somebody's bankrolling them. Somebody is. Who is it? So I came down on the side of you have to just believe people when they say the same thing for 50 years or close to 50 years. Just take them at their word. So we've established in my mind that they want to kill us anyway and hurt us any way possible. Our country, any way possible. And they've acted like that. They've acted like that for the better part of 50 years. Secondly, on your question about nuclear bombs or weapons in particular, why can't Iran have a nuke, but North Korea, China, and other not friendly countries can? Well, this is an interesting and good question. The eschatology of Iran has everything to do with this. They really believe that they are trying to bring about their version of Islam and its apocalypse. They're trying to bring that about. So your threat assessment when it comes to Iran, especially when they hate America already, and they've acted like that, when they also say that they're trying to bring about the Muslim apocalypse, the Islamic apocalypse, maybe you should take them at their word as well on that. So your threat assessment changes when it comes to somebody like China who's actually capable, or somewhat capable, we think anyway. Is China suicidal? Not in the way that Iran is. So I think that kind of answers that question. In terms of North Korea, do we even know that their missiles work? And also, they've had test after test. They're a paper tiger. So I don't think there's any real worry about North Korea. because they would also be suicidal if they ever tried to threaten us. I don't think they have the capability to do that. So they're looking out in their best interests as well. But in terms of Iran, I think the assessment has just been made. The calculus has just been made. They've acted in a way as if they hate us. They also say that they're trying to bring about the Islamic apocalypse. If they had nuclear weapons, who's to say that they wouldn't actually do that? Wouldn't actually use an entire arsenal of nuclear warheads. Your next question, do you really think that they couldn't get their hands on black market nukes if they wanted to? Well, the question then becomes, why haven't they yet? Because I think other countries have actually come to the same conclusion that I just spelled out. There's a different calculus when it comes to Iran than the rest of these countries. And they don't want those. These other countries don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon either. I mean, I said last Friday, Russia's response to Iran while this was all going down. You talking about we Lone Ranger? No. I mean, there's some reports that they wanted to wink, help Iran. I think they took some refugees, maybe. China, again, this was their response. China was just like, no, don't stop. Please don't attack Iran. These people hate Iran. They are the redheaded stepchild of basically the international community. So I hope that kind of answers your questions. That's just my perspective. But don't drone me, bro. I appreciate that you came to this seriously and in good faith asking these questions, because they're questions a lot of people have. And a lot of people are reassessing a lot of things in this world that we live in, especially in light of that seminal event, COVID. When we come back, is all pride sinful? And some housekeeping. That's coming up next. All right, as I said, 1 million downloads. It's a fine milestone. It's also smack dab in the middle of the summer. I produced hundreds of items already of content this year, so I need to take a little bit of time off. And I will be doing that next week. We'll have a normal episode on Monday. Got an interview with a man who I followed for a long time, followed his work for a long time, Dr. Calvin Beisner of the Cornwall Alliance for Stewardship of Creation. It's my perception that the green movement, at least as a serious force in academia, has kind of stalled. Of course, you've still got the crazies out there, obviously. Or maybe it's just my perception that we don't, in right-wing world, we really don't take their arguments seriously anymore. I just kind of want to do, it's been a long time since I've talked to him. I want to do just kind of a check-in with him about the state of the global warming fanatics. I'll run that next week, maybe a couple of best of episodes, but I'll be out for most of the week next week. Just want to give you a heads up. Back to Ask or Tell Me Anything. Justin Blaster says, my wife and I discussed this diet that we recently heard about called flexitarian. It's plant heavy, but you can eat meat and animal products occasionally or when you want. Isn't that just a normal diet? Why does everything have to have its own special status or name? We think it's akin to everyone getting a trophy. Flexitarian. Yeah, I mean, you could just say omnivore, omnivorous. But that's a good point. Flexitarian. I don't know. In this country, it seems like everything is marketing and everything is branding and everything is shiny and built to get your attention. Rick asks, does the WNBA implode in 2 years or less? It seems they can't handle the impact of Caitlin Clark at all. Brother, if they were operating in a typical capitalist marketplace, they would have already folded, but they're already, even with Caitlin Clark and making more money with Caitlin Clark, they are still subsidized by NBA owners. There's still a subsidy. So if the only way that this collapses is if those owners decide, well, I want to take the PR hit of shutting up shop on the WNBA. That's the only way it shutters, because it's always been a subsidy and it always will be. If Caitlin Clark and the WNBA can't figure out how to build this league around her, then it's always going to be a subsidy. It's never going to be truly successful. That's just the reality. James Moon says, is it ever sinful to say you're proud of someone, like your child or your country? Or does pride always carry a negative connotation in Scripture? Where's the line between godly encouragement and sinful pride? Well, that's a good question as well, James. And no, I don't think it's always sinful to say you're proud of someone. When we talk about the sinful definition of pride when it comes to what we see in the Bible, what is one passage I think that we can focus on that kind of has a good picture of the sinful pride that we're talking about? I think it's 1 John 2:16. All that's in the world, that's the desires of the flesh, desires of the eyes, or the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life is not from the Father, but from this world. Other translations call it the boastful pride of life. So what does this pride of life mean? What are we talking about, this boastful pride of life? The pride that's in the Bible is talking, the sinful pride of the Bible is talking about having an outsized view of yourself. We're really talking about what is the source of your pride. Is it in yourself and what you have done existentially, or is it from something else? You know, Galatians 6:4 actually says too, let each one test his own work, and then his reason to boast will be in himself alone and not his neighbor. Now, we're not talking about boasting in terms of, I did this, but we're talking about taking pride in a job well done, using the gifts and abilities that God has given you to the best of your ability, while recognizing, of course, who gave those abilities to you. Put it another way, 1 Corinthians, let the one who boasts boast in the Lord. So when you are proud of something for the right reasons, proud of a loved one, proud of maybe your son or daughter doing a good job at school or a good job in life, if you are proud because you think, I did that, that's a result of my work, instead of, that is a result of God working through me, it's a very different thing. Anything that stems from conceit or self-righteousness is a sinful pride. But any pride that stems from a thanksgiving attitude in your heart for what the Lord has done through you and for you, I don't think that's a sinful pride at all. I think that's going to do it for another Ask or Tell Me Anything. I appreciate all of you who listened this week. Again, 1 million downloads. That milestone has been passed now, and I have each and every one of you to thank for it. As always, give me a 5-star review, even if you've already done that 1 million times on iTunes or Spotify, whatever podcast platform of your choice. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. Back at it again on Monday.